سلام بینندگان عزیز. هلو گود مورنینگ. خیلی خوش آمدید به یکی دیگر از ویدیوهای من پوریازند هستم از کانال ویکی پوریا. مزاحم چشمانتان شدم. امروز میخواهم در مورد پیرمردی با شما حرف بزنم. پیرمردی که شما اگر در بیرون از منزلتان ببینید حتما میگویی پدر جان بده وسایلت را من بردارم. دریغ از این که آن پیرمرد سالهای سال در لوژهای فرانسوی شیطان پرستی فعالیت‌های بسیار داشته است. این پیرمرد به نام مورنو یا حاج راجر مورنو توبه میکنه و به آغوش گرم مسیح پدر و روح القدسش برمیگرده و کتابی مینویسه در این باره که هر آنچه که بر او گذشته، هر آنچه که او بر آن گذر کرده در آن مینوشته کرده. یک پسر و دختری پسر زیبا و دختر خیلی نازیبا این پیرمرد را به برنامهشان دعوت میکنند تا در باره هر آنچه که بر او گذشته و او بر آن گذشته را در آن برنامه شرح دهد. این فیلمی که قرار است ببینید یک مستند 1.5 ساعت است و چون 1.5 ساعت بسیار طولانی است من آن را قطعه کردم و در قطعات مساوی درون کانال قرار میدهم که ببینید و فیض ببرید. یعنی میشه قسمت اول، قسمت دوم، قسمت سوم. زیاد سرتون رو درد نیار. لطفاً خودتون برید و ببینید هر آنچه که باید را بریم لطفاً.
How in the world did you ever get involved in praying to demon spirits?
Well, when I came out of the Navy after World War II, I was looking forward to take up a trade in Montreal, Canada. And at that time, I ran across a fellow that had been on a particular ship with me. And he said, "Hey, Mورنو, you're alive. How nice to meet you." He says, "Let's have dinner tonight." I said to my boss, "Can I have the evening off?" Because I was the assistant to the Windsor bowling alleys and billiard. You know, it's the high-class place in Montreal where all the dress manufacturing people go and relax. So I got the evening off, and I went out. We went out and had dinner. He told me, "Hey, I got something fantastic to tell you." He said, "I am affiliated with people that speak with the spirits of the dead. How would you like to talk to the spirit of your dead mother?" And I was shocked. I was shocked. He said, "You wouldn't be afraid of talking to the spirit of your dead mother, would you?" Well, I said, "I'll tell you what, I would have to give that some thought. That's something I never thought about before in my life."
Most of us probably haven't. A little afraid of something like that.
Well, he said, you know, it's written all over your face. You're afraid of going to a seance. But he says, "I know you. You're going to come." And then he started to tell me how brave I was when I was aboard ship, you know, different things. He says, "You're not the same man. You've changed. You're chicken." That's all I needed to hear. I said, "When do we go to a seance?" So one Saturday evening, we were in the place. It was the very first time. Very beautiful place. A medium was a lady. She had a gorgeous new home in Montreal. And there were about 20 invited guests there, which I was one of them. And she communicated with the spirits for different people there and telling them what the spirit said. And then there was one lady that had been talking almost continually before the seance started, and she didn't believe in the dead appearing and all of this and all that. And she said, well, I would have to see my dead sister, she says, to believe it. So while the seance was going, one man said, I would like to talk to my friend that died 6 months ago, but I don't want him to appear. Just want to talk to him. Because he says, I don't trust you talking to my friend for me. So the medium says, let me inquire of the spirit. Yeah, the spirit will talk with you. And that big masculine voice was heard in the place. It says, hi, Frank. It's nice of you to ask for me to talk with you. And they had a little chat. And after it was over, Frank says, this is the greatest thing on earth, to be able to talk with the spirits of the dead. Then the medium said, we have a very special surprise tonight for you people. A spirit will manifest itself openly here in a few minutes. And it's like a big gust of wind hit the building and right through the wall. Now the lights weren't terribly bright, but they were like living room lights. A couple of floor lamps and maybe some of these. And that translucent being seemed to come right out of the wall.
How did you feel right at that moment?
It's almost like my heart stopped a little bit. Very weird feeling. So it was a lady in a beautiful evening gown, swirling. And she said to Mary, my dear sister, you are so wonderful to have asked for me. And Mary fainted and fell right off her chair on the floor. And a couple of guys jumped up and picked her up, and spirit gone. And that was the beginning of it.
That's how you got into it.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. After a while, you see, there's something interesting about the human mind. You can adjust an awful lot of stuff. You can adjust to a lot of things that would terrify you to begin with. After a while, they become common and ordinary.
So you mean contact with the supernatural can become commonplace and ordinary and doesn't bother anybody?
Yeah.
In other words, the more that you do it, you're not uncomfortable.
That's right.
It's just not an uneasy feeling.
Yeah.
So how did you feel about it?
Then I got into a secret society that worshiped the spirits, you see.
Well, now how is that different from the seance, Roger?
It happens that the seance are not involving in many ways. But when you get into a secret society of spirit worshippers, then, and especially when you're invited there by the direction of the higher-ups in the spirit world, you never get out of there alive. And this is exactly what my friend and I were up against. We didn't know anything about it. And there was a very, very popular big band leader,
jazz
band, yeah, very famous. He played a lot in Montreal, Canada, Vancouver, the big cities. And one night we went to one of these seances, and he was with his wife. Now the spirits had told him what to do. Spirit told him, there's two of these guys, give the names, and your wife will want to talk, we'll make it so that your wife will want to talk to the medium when you say that you want to go home because you're tired. As soon as you see that these guys are starting to want to leave, then leave with them at the same time. And as you get outdoors, you ask them if they're driving. They'll say, no, they're going to take the tramway a couple blocks away. Well, you invite them to get in your car with you, and that you will take them to a fancy restaurant and treat them to some good food and talk about the merchant navy. And that's what the guy did. And there we were in this plush restaurant, pulled into a little alley, and I can still see it like it was yesterday. Just enough room to pass the car, back alley, that happened to give on a restaurant that was on St. Catharines Street, which is the main street of Montreal. And that was quite an evening.
So, Roger, you're at this restaurant. What happened?
Well, after we were seated, and the owner of the place recognized the band leader and came and said, good evening, and you gentlemen want a table. So you're one of the reserve people. So we sat there, and we had our favorite alcoholic beverages, you know. And as we talked, the band leader says, how long have you fellas been involved with sorcery? And he shocked us a little bit. And I said, exactly what do you mean? Well, he said, you know, what you people are doing, talking to the supposed spirits of the dead. He says, this is silly.
And this man had been at the seance with you.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And he's telling you that it's silly what you've just done.
So see, my wife, he says, goes to these seances because she gets comfort and she gets something good out of it, good feeling out of it. And she lives for what the spirits, you know, are going to say that the future is going to be like. To me, he says, I can't bother with this stuff. He says, I want power. I go right to the source of power. And he says, how do you think that I became famous the way that I am? Well, I said, you must have had some good luck. Well, he says, there's no such thing as good luck. He says, there's either some power working for you somewhere, or you don't get ahead in this world. Not in my type of occupation. So it went from there. We got talking about spirit worship.
Did it intrigue you? Did it make you want to find out more about what exactly he was talking about?
Yeah. So he said the supposed spirits of the dead that you're talking with are demon spirits. They're fallen angels. They're beautiful beings.
Just set it out, just like that.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't make you uneasy when he said they were...
Well, you know, it shocked you a little bit, you know. Something that you first hear mentioned to you. He said, you guys have got a great future ahead of you. Because we've been told, the high priest of our society, secret society, has been told that the master has very special plans for you too.
Now, what did he mean by the master?
Satan. And we were interested to hear more about it. And he told us, he says, look, we worship spirits. We worship Lucifer and all his angels. They're just as beautiful as they did before they were cast out of heaven. He says there was a misunderstanding in the whole thing. He says among the inhabitants of the galaxies. And he says our master was misunderstood. And God did not bear with him like he does with people that make mistakes today. So we're in a warfare, good against evil. And we happen to be the evil ones, but we're not that bad. He says, I look at this business between the forces of good and evil. He says, you believe in one person believes in God, and everyone believes in Lucifer. It's like politics.
So the great controversy is real. And you've heard someone talk about it that's on the other side.
And to these people, they are sold to the fact that Christ will not return to this planet with power and great glory. He's going to abdicate all claims to the planet, because the high priest once said that Christ will abdicate all claims to the planet because he knows that it is lawfully and rightfully Satan's. And at that time, he says, Lucifer, you mentioned Lucifer a lot of times, but they mention Satan also. He says, the master, usually they like to talk about the master. The master will resurrect his people from the graves.
Now, George is telling you all this, or the high priest?
George.
Okay, when the evening wound down, and you're putting a cap on all that, you guys had consumed some alcohol.
Yeah.
And did you feel like that there was kind of a one-shot deal? You didn't know if it ever happened again? What happened after that?
He said, no. I said, listen, guys. He said, I like to have you, he says, meet some of our people. What about next week, Wednesday evening? I'll pick you up at your place, and you're invited to one of our services.
Services? Like a church service?
Yeah, something similar to that. It's a testimonial to the spirits, about how the spirits have blessed your life. So, when we left there, I said to myself, this guy is half drunk. I'm not going to hear from him again, you know. But it was true. Wednesday night came, he was there with his big Lincoln, step in, and we went to one of the most beautiful area of Montreal. And the place was a mansion. A mansion is usually very large. We call it a small mansion. It was beautiful. Most beautiful place. Yeah.
Roger, your friend George took you and Roland to this mansion where people worshipped the demons.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like there? What kind of people were there?
Well, it was a big surprise for me, as I kind of made up in my mind an idea that they were going to be rough-looking characters. But as we entered the place, I was amazed to see that they were all very well dressed, well mannered, and that a lot of the people, as we were being introduced to people, were professionals, doctors, attorneys, a lot of business people. And see what they had? They had a praise session to the gods, which is the spirit counselors, which are in charge of legions of spirits, of demon spirits. And they talk about what the Lord of their lives has done for them, because they call on particular spirits, like the god Nehushtan, which you read in 2 King about. The Israelites worshipped the golden serpent that Moses had made.
Mm-hmm.
Well, behind the spirit worship, behind that, they were worshipping the serpent. They were actually worshipping this spirit Nehushtan. And the same spirit Nehushtan is, the priest was telling us, that the medical doctor that was telling us how he was making operations that had never been made before, because people had to be awake, have no feeling. He was able to, carry on the surgeries that had not been done before. Mm-hmm. But the spirits would give that capacity to be able to operate without people feeling any pain. And also without no problem with the blood, because as you would cut his incision, everything open and with no blood running. Mm-hmm. So you could do the work that has not been done before. So.
Now, I recall reading in your book that at this praise worship service they had, they would sing hymns. Why would they sing hymns in a demon worship?
Yeah, this was kind of a big surprise to me when that took place. The priest said, hey, let's go down to the worship room of the gods and have a praise session, a singing session. So we go down there, and what did you think they pass around? Church hymnals, Christian church hymnals. And I couldn't believe this. I said, what's his business? So the priest says, well, now, he says, for those of you that are new, let me tell you that this is the most feasible way, he says, to please the spirits, is to deride Christ and his people, and his church and all that. So they sing out of Christian hymnals.
They didn't sing Christian words to the hymns, however.
Well, they changed a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and not
it's a form of blasphemy. Yeah. Mm. Such as you see today in the rock music world. You see the entertainers, they have these crosses. Mm-hmm. The ladies got earrings, crosses. Mm-hmm. The guys got the cross. This is a form of blasphemy, a form of deriding Christ. You see. Mm-hmm. Spirits cause the people to do that, to find pleasure in wearing this type of emblem, which is the cross is the emblem of the crucifixion of Christ to the Christians.
So what were your impressions the first time you went down into that worship room?
Well, it was, we'd been there maybe half a dozen times, and the high priest told us after the meeting was over, he wanted to talk to us, my friend and I. So after most people had left, he says, the master of my life has revealed to me that it is time for you people to become acquainted with the worship room of the gods. Well, we started to move toward a beautiful grand staircase. Beautiful. The banister was huge. It was massive, and the wrought iron work that they had done was super. The beautiful decorations on the walls, the chandelier on the first landing. It was the first landing. You go down about 8 or 10 steps, and you had the first landing. It was huge and beautiful. The light arrangement was the nicest I had ever seen in my life. When we got into this sanctuary area, it wasn't very brightly lit, but everything was magnified. The beauty of certain things, like a lot of the things were gold-plated or gold trims. See, the little altars where they had the spirits that had materialized. They photographed them, and then they had paintings made of them. And there was probably about maybe 100 of those around the place.
Sort of like a shrine.
Yeah, and underneath there was a little altar where you have incense and things that they would use in their prayer sessions and things like that, devotions to certain spirits. And some of the objects in there, the priest said, were solid gold. It was a unique experience to see that.
Hello, good morning دوباره.
Hello.
قسمت اول به پایان رسید. به پایان رسید این دفتر، اما قسمت‌های بعد همچنان باقی است. سریعتر برید قسمت‌های دیگر رو هم ببینید. دیگه من نیستم. من همینجا از حضور گرمتان خداحافظی میکنم و شما را با راجر تنها میگذارم. امید است که از دیدن ویدیوها لذت کافی را ببرید. چی من برم؟ خیلی خوشحال شدم که دوباره دیدمتون و به امید دیدار خیلی زود. ادیوس.